Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast Retro Life for You Movies of the 1980s and 1990s. My name is Chris Adams, host of your show, and we are without our sidekick this week, Travis Rollins. He is actually working tonight, and I'm running solo with the show today. But we have a very, very fun show for you. If you remember, just recently we brought on martial arts legend Cynthia Rothrock and talked with her. And a lot of you guys said that you really liked it and you'd like to see more like that. So we're very fortunate today to have our next guest with us. And I'm just going to go ahead and bring him on in, not beat around the bush here. Here we have with us today Mr. Keith Cooke. Keith, thank you so much. Oh, I'm sorry.
How you doing?
I done went and messed up my screen, didn't I? There we go. Thanks a lot for coming on with us this week. We
Oh, it's
really
my pleasure.
appreciate this.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I just recently started rewatching some of these old flicks that I really enjoyed in high school and coming out of high school,
Hmm.
and you were a part of a lot of that. And we'll get to more of that here later and everything. But just want to let you know personally, I think the first thing I seen you in and I really enjoyed was China O'Brien, the
Okay.
one and two of that, and that's when I think of you, that's the most notable character that comes to mind for me. And I've
Okay.
seen you in so many more things. I don't know why that stands out the most, but it's one of my favorite movies that you've been in. Um, what kind of drove you toward martial arts when you were younger? I know you. I believe if I read correctly, you got what karate, taekwondo, and wushu.
Yeah. Um, Boxing and kickboxing. But the thing that I got bullied as a kid, and when I saw Bruce Lee, I was just like, wow, I want to be like that.
I think we all want to be like Bruce Lee when we were younger.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And so, yeah, so that's why I started off in Kung Fu because I thought that Bruce Lee did Kung Fu. So that's what I wanted to do. And I eventually started with a Kung Fu master named Roger Tong in Seattle, which is where I grew up.
Hmm.
And, but from there, branched out into different things. And he had a pretty unique school back then. Back in those days, usually there was one thing on the sign: karate, kung fu, taekwondo, something like one of those. But he had kung fu, karate, and tai chi on his sign. Uh, I saw him do a demonstration, and he was from China, so he had a Chinese accent. He just looked the part to me. And I didn't really know what I was looking for because I was 12 at the time. And kids didn't start as young back then because, like the Karate Kid wasn't out yet. This was in 1973. That's when I started. So, they didn't have Power Rangers or anything like that yet. No Ninja Turtles. so, so when I went to class, there would be mostly adults in the class.
Yeah.
And but I eventually went to train in China because I wanted to. Actually, my instructor started taking groups of people to China to train, and so I went there with his first group and trained in wushu in China, and didn't really understand, the difference or, you know, what all the styles were and everything. But I was pretty lucky because my instructor had a black belt in Taekwondo and he grew up doing Kung Fu in China. So he had a kind of a diverse background. And that was pretty rare back then. Usually you get one thing. Now everybody has and actually Bruce Lee is the one who started, putting together different styles. And that was the thing that I didn't really understand when I started, when I became a fan of Bruce Lee. I didn't realize all the things that he was into at the time. I thought he did Kung Fu.
Hmm.
And I think, like he was really into boxing and kickboxing and Filipino stick fighting and Kung Fu, the different styles of Kung Fu and stuff. And I think through years and years of competing in the martial arts and stuff like that, I started to realize more and more why he was interested in doing so many different things. And it's probably a big reason of why MMA has evolved into what it is now. And I'm a big fan of MMA, and love how they have boxing, kickboxing, wrestling, jujitsu, all built into that sport. And they've made it into a legit, sport and you can tell it is because it keeps getting better and better, and the athletes get better and better. So that means, that they have a good set of rules to work with, and a good organization, So I love watching that. I learned a lot. Like, honestly, in the beginning, you can stop me at any time if I'm talking too much.
No, please.
When I started, since my instructor, I think because he had a black belt in Taekwondo and he was a good kicker, I learned a lot of really good kicking drills that were actually Taekwondo kicking drills, and developed good kicking skills from very early on. But I always felt like when I got in close with somebody, when I was sparring or in a tournament, I would be sort of like, what's going on? And I would see how boxers could stand right next to each other, and it seemed like they were watching what was going on, and moving their head and getting out of the way of punches. And I was like, wow, I want to be like that. And so when I was about 18 and going to the University of Washington, I joined the boxing club at the University of Washington, and started learning boxing. And that really, I think, helped. It helped me understand just more about the martial arts and stuff. And I got a lot better at being in close. And those different ranges are really important. That was something that Bruce Lee was really interested in, the different ranges. And he had names for them and stuff. And as I kept competing, and I eventually moved to Los Angeles, I started training with Master Steve Fisher down here, who a lot of competitors knew. He was a very well-known competitor. And one of my friends and teammates is a woman named Arlene Lemus, who won the gold medal in the 1988 Olympic Games. And she recommended Steve, and I had heard of him already because I didn't really have anyone to train with down here in Los Angeles. So I started going to his place, and he had a really strong boxing background and kickboxing. And so I used to go every Wednesday night and spar at his place. And it was open black belt sparring night on Wednesday nights. And that was a great experience. And unfortunately, he has passed away. But I learned so much down there. So it was a great experience.
How did wushu help you with your? I remember reading earlier that you were competitive in forms and weapons and things of that nature. How did wushu help you develop with that and everything?
Well, I thought that, like this was before MMA really got popular, and so it was before the UFC when I was competing. And so I thought that martial arts was you either would kickbox or you would, compete in the martial arts tournaments, which usually included sparring, weapons forms, and also empty hand forms. And so I competed in all three, and some people chose to specialize in one thing. I thought it was all part of being a martial arts person, so I always felt like I wanted to do all three. And and so I saw videos of the Beijing Wushu team when they came here back in 1974, and they demonstrated. And I saw videos of that demonstration, and I was just blown away. I was just like, wow. And Jet Li was actually on that team, but really? I think he was very young when he was like, I don't know, I want to say he was like 10 years old or something like that at the time, and was already, he was like a prodigy, and he eventually became all-around national champion of China, and that is hard. That's really hard. You got to be really good because, it's such a big part of their culture, and each province in China has their own national team that competes, and they compete against each other, and they get pulled out of school for athletic prowess and potential at a very young age, and they train with the other athletes, just like, like remember how the Soviet gymnasts used to dominate and stuff
Right.
back in the day, and then China did. Their sport becomes their job. And that's what happens with the martial arts athletes too. And so I think the best thing that I learned when I went over there, I mean, there were a lot of detailed stuff that I learned about martial arts because we trained with a lot of, martial arts masters over there. But in particular, we trained with the Jiangsu wushu team. And there was a teacher named Wang Jimbao there who was the head coach. And he was awesome. But I think for me to be there, staying with the athletes and see how professional athletes train and train with them, that was the best part of that experience. Because what they did was they would train 3 hours in the morning, they would get a lunch break, take a nap, have some tutoring, schooling, and then they would go back to train later in the afternoon for another 3 hours. So it was like 6 hours a day, 6 days a week. And I was like, wow, these guys train twice a day.
That's dedication.
I used to think, if somebody trained every day, that was a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but, and I did that, but I never saw somebody who trained regularly twice a day, 6 days a week. And I remember one of them telling me that Mondays were the hardest because they had Sundays off. And so it was sort of harder to get back into the groove. But I think that was a really, really sort of opened up my eyes to the possibilities. Like maybe if I have the discipline, I can go home and keep this kind of a similar schedule. I couldn't keep the same schedule with I was going to school at the time and I had a job. And so I had to modify it. But what I would do is I would train for about an hour and a half in the morning and an hour and a half in the evening. And that worked out pretty good for me. And I had to do a lot of training on my own because we didn't have the professional coaching. And in order to train like that, you might not always have people to train with. If you want to do that, you have to do a lot of it on your own. And so I became good at training by myself. I would still train with other people, but who's going to train with me twice a day, every day?
Right.
And people have different schedules and stuff. So I think I learned that if I wanted to stay on that schedule, I had to be willing to train and motivate myself to train, And so
I think self-motivation is the toughest part probably for a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, and I had goals of, I wanted to get in the movies because Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, Chuck Norris, those were the guys that I was watching back then. Mm-hmm. And they made it into the movies. So that became a goal of mine, as I think it was for Cynthia, and so just was very highly motivated, was very disciplined about my training, tried to get the best people I could to train with. And I was really lucky at the University of Washington. They had a boxing room, which was very unusual. Like I said, I went there and I became I ended up becoming the president of the boxing club. And we used to fight in smokers because our coach also coached at the boys club. He coached at the YMCA. And so we would have smokers against those other teams. And so it was a great experience. Although a lot of times you'd end up fighting somebody out of your weight class. For me, it was usually somebody bigger. But it was just an unusual experience. The guy who became the first UFC heavyweight champion that was a striker, a guy named Maurice Smith, trained there at that place. A guy named Victor Solier, who became a WKA kickboxing world champion, also trained there. And there was a really good Taekwondo coach at the University of Washington also. And this was just, I sort of lucked into that somehow. And as I kept training there, I realized I was way more interested in that than doing my schoolwork. I was way more interested in training in the martial arts than, the book studies and stuff.
Right.
But it ended up being such a great place to train. And I used to get other people to come. We trained at the Intramural Sports Building at the University of Washington. And so many great people came in there to work out because of that boxing room. They had a great boxing room. And they had a ring. So it was great.
So being a champion with forms and weapons, what was your weapons of choice that you like to work with?
Well, I kind of specialized in the staff. The Chinese name for it is gun, like Goon. And it's a long, a lot of the weapons, the longer weapons have, like I also did 3-sectional staff, which is like like an extra long nunchuck, but there's
Right.
3 pieces.
But you're just in 3 sections, 2 chains, pull them together.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, learning the staff is kind of like a fundamental thing in China. And once you learn that, you can branch out into other weapons. So I also learned broadsword, double broadsword. So mainly I stuck to the staff and the 3-sectional staff and broadsword and double broadsword. So I did those 4 weapons, and I tried to keep them all in shape so I could compete with, any or all of them on the same day.
Okay. You were just talking a moment ago about wanting to get to movies and everything. Was China O'Brien the first movie that you had got into?
It was actually the second movie.
Second?
Yeah. I did a movie called Picasso Trigger before that, which I was in an acting class. And one of the guys that was in my acting class said, "Hey, Keith, I think I've got an opportunity for you to try out for this movie," because I didn't have an agent or anything. And he says, "Do you want to go audition for this part?" And I said, "Sure." And it was a guy named Andy Sedaris directed these Playboy Bunny spy movies that he filmed in Hawaii. And so I went to the audition, and the guy goes, "Okay, say." They gave me some sides. You know what sides are? They're like the piece of the script that they want you to do in the audition. And there was like 2 lines on there or something.
Mm-hmm.
So basically I had those memorized before I got there. And then I said, "Oh, you want me to do this?" And they go, "Oh, no, forget that. Just say, hey." And I go, "Hey." And they go, "Okay, can you do a backflip?" And I said, "Yes, I can." And they said, "You've got the part." So
Easy.
that was how I got my first part. And it was a blast. I've always loved working on movies, including that first one. And, we filmed mostly on Molokai, and which is where the leper colony is. And it's a very beautiful island. It's very remote. It's not very touristy. At least it wasn't back then. This was 1987, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And so had a really good time. Basically got to go on vacation, and my character was a bad guy who rode motorcycles, and I got to ride motorcycles with a world champion motorcycle rider named Bruce Penhall, who used to be in Chips for a while. And he was a great guy and super talented motorcycle rider. And I just had to try to fake it and try to keep up with him, But that was great. And then China O'Brien was my second movie. Yeah.
Okay. The what's it? King of the Kickboxers comes out. I'm going to go back to China O'Brien in just a minute, but I noticed King of the Kickboxers. I remember watching that as well. You get to work with Billy Blanks and Lauren, I believe it's Avedon. Say his last name.
Avedon, yes.
You worked with so many great people over the years. Did you have a preference of anybody in particular that you liked working with the most?
Well, I do like working with Billy Blanks. I mean, he's solid. He was one of my teammates. I knew Billy since about 1982, and so this was about doing China O'Brien was about uh, around 1988, and I think King of the Kickboxers must have been a little bit after that, but could have been in the same year. And I had asked Billy to do a pickup scene for, we had an alley fight in China O'Brien 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then just by chance, we both end up getting the parts in that in King of the Kickboxers. So it was my second time doing a movie with Billy, and had known him forever though. Like we had trained together a lot. So it was really good. It's really good when you know somebody and you're doing a fight with them and you can trust them, and that you can really go for it, and that's what the way it was with Billy. And so that was great. And also on King of the Kickboxers, I got to work with Corey Ewan, who, do you know who that is?
I think I've heard the name. I can't put a face to it though, but the name does
Well,
sound
later
familiar.
on, he was a very prominent fight coordinator, fight director from Hong Kong, and famous in Hong Kong. One of the best, one of the greats, and had worked with Jackie Chan a lot and stuff. And I didn't really know this that much at the time, but they told me that he was coming in to direct my fight, and it was the only fight that he was directing because when you do a Hong Kong movie, the what they call the drama director, the head director of the movie, just sits down, and a new director comes in and directs the fights. And that's what Corey Ewan did for that fight in King of the Kickboxers, which I'm very proud of that fight. We did it in one afternoon, including the choreography, the rehearsal, all the stuff, deciding who's going to be in the fight, everything. And he would just say, "Can you do this? Can you jump up and kick this guy 3 times?" And I would say, "Yeah, I can do that." And he said, "What would you do to these? I'm going to have these guys come in here. What would you do?" And he goes, "We want you to kick." And the other thing I noticed was when he got there and he took over the set, everybody got really quiet and like soldiers, and like the talking, everything stopped. Everybody was just like really focused. You knew that he had the respect of the crew and everything, and he knew exactly what he wanted. He knew how to get me to do the things that he needed for the fight, and he also made me feel like I was contributing to it. I think he had a lot more to do with it than seemed obvious at the time, but he was really good. And I was really honored to have that opportunity. And I'm still really proud of that fight to this day. Yeah.
So, what led you to the role in China O'Brien? I believe you mentioned your friend got you the audition for the first movie. What steered you toward this one?
Well, I think I was doing really well in the competition back then, and I was in the Black Belt Hall of Fame, Competitor of the Year. Inside Kung Fu magazine was prominent at the time. They made me their Competitor of the Year twice.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, Fred Weintraub, the producer, who also produced Enter the Dragon, asked the editor of Inside Kung Fu magazine, a guy named Dave Cater, if he could recommend anyone for this particular role, and he recommended me. And so one day I was home, just got done working out, and he calls me. He called, I picked up the phone. "Who's this?" "Fred Weintraub. This is Fred Weintraub trying to get a hold of Keith." And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe I was talking to the producer of Enter the Dragon, and he wanted me to come in right away to his office to meet me. And so within 10 minutes, I was in his office.
That's awesome. Uh, I have to ask this question. I have a friend of mine. We are both pretty much the same age. We grew up watching these very same movies. Loved watching these movies and everything. And he was telling me, he said, "You got to ask this question. I know you know where I'm going with it. You got to ask it. I knew what he's going to say already. Okay.
Okay.
But you mentioned Bruce Lee a couple of times, right?
Yeah.
So there's a thing out there, and you've probably been asked this several times over, but they said that I believe it has something along the lines of that you're able to kick as fast as Bruce Lee could punch, or something along those
That
lines.
was actually Fred Weintraub that said that.
Was it?
He came up with that, and like he was really trying to like jumpstart my career, and so it's something that somebody will say to promote things
Hmm.
and stuff, and I never like when anything is disparaging to Bruce Lee, really, because to me he's the man. So I think it was something that Fred Weintraub, and let's say um, I know I had fast kicks. I had fast kicks, but I don't think that's a very good comparison. And let's just say that he wanted to promote, the movies and the things, and maybe be a little controversial too. Who knows?
Yeah. But it
But
sounds good, though. I mean,
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, a lot of people have asked me about that,
I
and
I figured they probably have. I was like, he's probably tired of getting asked this question already.
um, and I doubt if my kicks were faster than Bruce Lee's hands. So
I still say it sounds good. We'll just go with it. We'll go with the flow
sounds good.
on that one. Hey, do you still get recognized a lot for Mortal Kombat? Do people bring it up a lot to you?
It's funny you would say that. Just last week, I was eating at our local sushi restaurant about less than a mile from my house, and
Mhm.
and somebody just asked me out of the blue from another table if I was Keith Cooke, and I thought, what was I thinking? I thought that it was like an old martial arts student of mine, because I have that happen, because I had a martial arts studio for 28 years, and sometimes I wouldn't see a kid who was there and got up to maybe green or red belt or something. I bump into them at Target or something. And they're
Right.
just staring at me. Where do I know you from? And so I thought at first it was an old martial arts student, because it was a guy eating there with his parents. And then he goes, "Weren't you Sub-Zero and in Beverly Hills Ninja?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." So yeah, I get recognized, and like movies like China O'Brien played a lot in, like I have a lot of fans in Eastern Europe, because they played a lot over there, but they played them a lot in Mexico too, and I think South America, where they would dub it in Spanish, and so I get recognized a lot. Like even if I go to Mexico, I get recognized. Yeah.
I was talking to Cynthia about a lot of these movies, and I told her, I said, I never understood when I was younger why I wasn't seeing them in theaters. And she was like, well, a lot of the Hong Kong movies, especially, didn't get promoted in the States really as much. So you wouldn't see them in the theaters.
Yeah.
Um, and which I thought was kind of disappointing, because there were some great movies, really. I mean, I always loved the action of
Hmm.
these movies, and there was always the choreography of the fights and everything was always so impressive.
Well, it is the 30-year anniversary of Mortal Kombat, the original one in 1995, and
Mhm.
I'm really proud of that fight too. So I've been going to a lot of Comic Cons, actually, getting invited to Comic Cons to sign autographs and stuff, and I don't think I would have that without being a part of the Mortal Kombat movies. So yeah, that's turned out to be, uh, like the game keeps going, and now they have new movies, uh, and I did that reptile fight in the first one, which I think is a really well crafted fight, and
Mhm.
super proud of it. And they added it after the movie. They tested the movie, and people were asking for more action. And Robin called me, who's also been a friend of mine since about 82 or so, um, asked me if I would come for this extra fight against him? And I said, yeah, sure would. And so they built sets in the Van Nuys Airport here in Los Angeles, and they did the Johnny Cage versus Scorpion fight, and they did the Liu Kang versus Reptile. And I'd never had so much time to shoot a fight scene before. We had 6 days to do the blocking, the choreography, and also just when you walked onto that set, it was such a cool looking set that I think it was motivating for you to get more into it. There was no green screening or anything like that. It was all, but it was very dark and dingy, and they did a really good job of making that set look like something very cool, and so
It
I
was
loved
very
working on
cool.
that. I felt really motivated, and again, I was in that same situation where I trained with Robin a lot over the years, and so just like when I would work with Billy, I felt really comfortable with Robin, and we could go for it, and it was a really good collaboration and putting the fight together. And Jeff Imada, a really well-known stunt coordinator, was there. And then of course we had the director, what's his name? Oh God, Paul Anderson. Paul Anderson was, I think, really knew what he wanted, really good craftsman. I think that first movie is still the best one in the Mortal Kombat.
It's probably my favorite, the first one, and I did like I don't want to call them if it's a reboot or just a redo, however they want to word it, the one they had most recent.
Yeah.
I did like it. It was good, but I mean, it didn't feel like the first game to me. Like you guys in that movie portrayed the first game, really well.
I thought so
And
too. Yeah.
and as fans of the game, we had ideas of who we wanted to see play the character roles and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing against Robin playing Liu Kang. I had personally, I had like 2 people I would have loved to have seen play Liu Kang, and you were actually one of them.
Oh, I appreciate
And I
I
did
did
like,
audition for that. I
did
auditioned for
you
that role, and I got called back like 4. I think I got down to about the last 5 people, maybe something like that.
see? I thought that you would have been really good at it, and Philip Ree was the other one that I thought would be cool.
Oh yeah,
And Philip Ree, Best of the Best, fame.
yeah.
In Best of the Best 2, he even does the Liu Kang kick where he flips over and gets the 2 legs, coming over and
Uh-huh.
kicking the guy. And
Yeah.
I'm watching this at the theater with my friend. I'm like, Liu Kang, I told you that's Liu Kang. Look at that. He just did the kick of all things. Come on. Um, we uh we asked Cynthia about Mortal Kombat as well because it was pretty well known that they kind of modeled Sonya Blade after her. It seemed like the
Mhm.
look and everything. And I believe she said that they approached her for the movie as well, but they weren't able to come to terms with anything. But it looked like they still kind of, used her likeness and stuff and everything in a way.
Mhm.
Um, I don't think it was just her either. I mean, like when it came to like the Raiden character, it looks just like the guy, one of the 3 storms from Big Trouble in Little China. Uh, and we're all picking these things out, going that they could have got that guy to do this, they could have got her to do that, because we didn't know she, couldn't work anything out with it. We just thought they never asked her. And then of
Yeah.
course you brought your name up along with Philip Ree, and everybody was like, they just had their ideas. I believe Kano, they were wanting the guy, the Vernon Wells. Do you know who Vernon Wells is?
It sounds familiar.
So Vernon Wells, he was in Commando with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He
Oh
was
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
main bad guy. And
yeah.
I think he was in Road Warrior or something like that as well. But anyway, we had our ideas and thoughts. I also liked your portrayal of Sub-Zero's brother in the second one. That was pretty cool as well. And they were still sticking with the feel of the video game, but like bringing characters from the second game in.
Right, right. Yeah,
The first one was still better overall, but the second one was
yeah,
still good.
yeah.
Uh, did you like one? Not as far as the movie, but playing Reptile versus Sub-Zero. Did you
Well,
one
I
you like?
like playing Sub-Zero because it was more of an acting role, but I like the fight in the first one better. we I've told other people this, just that I felt like shooting on that bridge was, a little more difficult than people probably realize. One of the things was that the snow was actually kind of like salt. It was like fighting in sand,
Hmm.
and which makes it really hard to jump, and it's very slippery. But when we got to the part under the bridge, there was very little space, like to put the cameras and the lights and have room to fight. And so I think they should have built an additional set of that bridge where it was open on one side so they could film more freely, or something, because it was a real bridge that they had built, and they had to try to fit the cameras in there, and it was just difficult to get good shots.
Yeah. Well, to go to another movie, with now Robin's last name, I always wonder, is it Shao or
Shoe.
Shu?
Yeah.
Is Shu?
Yeah. I mean, you could
Okay.
take the O out really,
Okay.
and it's makes it easier.
I always like to ask. I hate mispronouncing people's names.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Robin Shu, and you get to so Beverly Hills Ninja, and
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, you have this Clark Kent Superman thing going on, I guess, with that movie because I've seen you in other movies, right?
Uh-huh.
Do you know it took me the third or fourth time watching this movie to realize that was you?
Okay.
It's the little mustache, I guess, is what and the way your hair was just brushed, I guess, brushed
I
straight
had a
down. You
little
had a little mustache.
goatee, and I had like
Yes.
a Julius Caesar haircut.
So it just threw me off completely. And then when I realized it was you, I'm like, oh my God, how did I not pick that out? How did I not catch that?
Right.
But working with him yet again in another movie must have been good
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. Um, I can't remember how I got that audition, but it might have been that Robin recommended me for that role. But yeah, I mean, that was another really good job, and just a lot of fun. And I ended
Chris
up working
Farley,
for Dennis Dugan, the guy who directed that. I worked for him on National Security. I got a good role in that where I played kind of like, it was a small role prominence wise, and I only had one line in the movie, but I was working like almost the whole time because I was with Eric Roberts. I
right?
was like his right hand man or his
Mhm.
bodyguard kind of, and so whenever Eric Roberts was working, I was working. So it was a really good job, and that was funny too because I didn't audition for that. Just Dennis Dugan had his office call me up and just tell me that I got the part. And it was funny because I wasn't answering the call, because we would get a lot of times at my martial arts school when somebody called, they would be looking for extras in movies that could do martial arts and stuff. And so a lot of times I didn't answer them. And then they called like 4 times or something. So I finally called them back and they said, "You got the part." And I said, "What part?" And they go, "National Security. Do you know who Dennis Dugan is?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah." And so that turned out to be a really good job too. And that movie, like when you do these movies like that, the residuals are really good. The royalties or whatever you want to call them.
Right.
And Martin Lawrence movies, I was training this kid whose dad produced Big Mama's House. And he goes, "Keith, you want some movie money?" And I go, "Sure." He goes, "Here, come work on Big Mama's House for a couple of days." And I went there, and I knew some of the other guys that were working there too. And I worked for 3 or 4 days and basically just fell off a bench. And still get Martin Lawrence movies have a long shelf life, like
Yes.
they,
He's a big favorite
yeah.
amongst
And
people.
so I got lucky in being in movies like Mortal Kombat, which also are like that. They go on and on and on. People still watch them. And that Martin Lawrence's movies are like that too. So National Security. In fact, I saw him in an interview not too long ago where he said that was his favorite movie.
It was such a good movie. I mean, it's funny. It's got some nice little story to it. a little bit of action that's fun that keeps you invested with it. It was just a good all
Yeah,
around movie. And
yeah,
Martin Lawrence is a funny guy. I don't know who I
funny.
would found funnier, Martin Lawrence or
Eddie
uh,
Murphy.
oh, Eddie Murphy was Eddie Murphy when he was doing comedy was my hands down favorite for the longest time.
I
But
love
you can
48 Hours, the movie 48 Hours. Oh,
48 Hours in
so
Beverly Hills Cop, very good movie,
yeah,
great.
definitely.
Uh, but then working with Martin Lawrence, you also worked with Chris Farley, who had his own type of humor, that physical type humor,
Yeah.
and a lot of funny stuff he was in. Did you? I mean, I don't know if you got to work much with either one of those two guys in particular, but if so, which one did you think was funnier?
Well, I got to work directly with Chris Farley quite a bit more than Martin Lawrence because, well, one, Chris came and trained at my studio to get ready, and he got himself in pretty good shape too. And it's interesting because you don't think about comedians and their athleticism because I think Eddie Murphy is a really good athlete too. Man, I don't know, and I don't know about Martin Lawrence, but Chris Farley was surprisingly athletic, and for being a big guy who's overweight and stuff, he was very agile, and he's they're all smart guys, obviously, so they could learn stuff really fast, and he picked stuff up with weapons and just like he had a really awesome cartwheel that he could do pretty fast.
Yeah,
And so I just remember just thinking, man, this guy is pretty awesome. And he was really funny. And a lot of times I had to it's just hard to keep a straight face in a scene when he's going off.
it's just his style of humor. Keeping a straight face. I've mentioned to somebody else before. Soft topic, just a little bit, but Weekend at Bernie's. If you've seen Weekend at Bernie's,
Yeah.
Terry Kaiser's role is pretty much a dead man most of the movie.
Yeah.
And Catherine Mary Stewart was on the show with us, and we asked her, "How did you manage to keep a straight face while you were filming in that movie?" And she said it was very hard
Yeah.
because he would always purposely try to make them laugh with just this little smirk on his face while he's dead, and then you can't help but not laugh
Yeah.
when little things. So I mean, Chris Farley, I would imagine would be the toughest out of between him and Martin Lawrence. He would have been the toughest for me not to laugh at, just because his of knowing his SNL stuff he did and everything. It would just stand out in my head.
Yeah.
So, want to get to your one more movie real quick, which is Black Creek, one of your most recent that you did with Cynthia Rothrock and Richard Norton,
Yes.
kind of a China O'Brien reunion there.
Yeah.
Um,
I
great
mean,
movie.
I've always hoped that we would do like a reboot of China O'Brien, do a China O'Brien 3. And I mean, I'm sure you've heard about Richard.
Unfortunately, I'll tell you real quick. Of the three of you, he's the first person that I approached. I didn't know how to reach out to you in any way, and I had reached out to Cynthia once or twice, but she didn't ever see my message. And I know when it comes to this, it's just a matter of sometimes being lucky. The message gets in front of a person, or
Yeah.
however it may go. But I mean, Richard reached back out within a couple of days, and I had to reschedule the weekend we were going to do the interview because I had to go to my mom's and help her with some stuff and everything. So, and I mean, I'm not mad that I went and helped her or nothing like that. Don't get me wrong, but the next weekend he was going to be in Australia somewhere doing seminars, and then the week after that was going to come back and we were going to do it. And before that weekend got here, he passed away.
Yeah. It was
Very
at a
sad.
seminar. He was actually at a seminar when it happened.
Yeah. So it's very sad. And the China O'Brien 3 I asked her about as well. I said, I know with circumstances that's happened recently, would it ever be a way, or would y'all consider doing a China O'Brien 3? And she said that some ideas have been kicked around, but I don't know if she ever said anything would be, solid or not. But it would be cool
I
though.
think it could still happen. I think there's still
Yeah.
a possibility.
Yeah.
But I was really hit hard by when that happened, because we were really reconnecting after Black Creek, and every time he came to LA, we would hang out, and we have some other mutual friends out here, and it was just, I couldn't believe it.
He seemed like a really nice guy for our conversations we had.
He is a very nice, kind person. He's a great person to hang out with. He's funny. I did a lot of, I would bounce stuff off him during Black Creek, just say, what do you think of this? And we would rehearse our scenes and stuff like that. But, and also he was one of the healthiest 74-year-olds I've ever seen. That's why it was so shocking too.
That's the same thing that Cynthia said as well.
It's just shocking because he looked so good,
Mm-hmm.
and he was so rigorous, doing fights and teaching seminars and stuff like that. And that's why I do think, that you do have to, be really careful, make sure that you don't have blockage in your arteries or anything like that, because you might everything might seem normal and it's not,
We're not as invincible as we'd like to believe we are.
Yeah.
I'm very guilty of that a lot. So yeah, I know. But any fun stories from the making of the movie or the movie itself?
Just like I had a really good time. It was like a fantasy of mine, because I grew up as a kid playing cowboys and Indians, and have always been a really big Clint Eastwood fan. I loved Pale Rider, but just so many of his movies and his presence and stuff. And he had actually shot where we were shooting, that it's like a little Western town that's already built there, and they rent it out for movies. So a lot of Westerns, I think they've shot 77 Westerns there.
Wow.
And so it was really cool. It's very close to Tombstone, Arizona, outside of Tucson. And it was just like a very historical place out in the desert. And it's kind of spooky a little bit, because so many Westerns have been shot there. John Wayne is shot there. And Tombstone, the movie Tombstone, was shot there with Val Kilmer and Michael Biehn and Kurt Russell. Yeah. And so
that was one of my favorites actually growing up.
That's a really good movie, and so anyway, you've just got all this history in that place. And like I was saying about the set of in Mortal Kombat, they built this beautiful set that when you walk into it, you get this feeling, and that's the way it was in the Arizona desert, because this town is sitting there out in the desert, and it's not, so as much as it is a movie set, looks like a real old dusty town, and that's what it is. And it's sitting there. And so when you're walking down the street and it's been there for so many years that you just feel the history, And so I think it's very motivating, and I just thought it was so cool. I just was so pleased to be there and to have this kind of a role that I had, which I think it's, the most interesting role I've ever had in a movie. I loved playing it. I loved getting the opportunity to play I'm actually half Japanese and half Scottish. And so I'm half white, half Asian. And I got to play basically a white guy finally, and it was just fun, and I really, really enjoyed it. I'll tell you a funny story though, is one night they were shooting really late, and on movies like that, they can't like be running you back to your hotel and back and forth and stuff, because it's about a 20-minute drive or something like that, or maybe even more.
Right.
And so you wait around, for when it's going to be your turn, and they think they're going to get to you, but then at the end of the day, they run out of time. And I was actually in my little trailer thing that I had to relax in, and I fell asleep, and the whole set wrapped up and everybody left, and I was in the trailer, and they forgot to wake me up, or they
Left you behind.
and it felt like Twilight Zone. I swear, I woke up at about 5 in the morning or something like that, and I was freezing. That's why I woke up, because they shut all the power down, and there was no heating and even though it can be hot, during the days, at the nighttime in the desert, it gets down in the 30s. It was freezing. And I opened the trailer, and I was like, it was so quiet. I was like, where is everybody? And I was left there all by myself. And it felt like the Twilight Zone. I walked out, and I was like, oh man, this isn't good. They forgot about me, and so I called the production manager, and they had to come pick me up, but I had to walk like off like 3/4 of a mile, because everything was locked up. The car that they came to pick me up, they couldn't get in the gate because it was locked. So I had to go over there and climb over the fence. And, but even that was kind of, it was a fun experience. Like sort of like, I really felt like I woke up in the Twilight Zone, and you're at this sort of like, it feels like a haunted little Western town all by myself, in the dark,
Now I have to ask, so what were you dressed like in your movie attire at
I
that
had
point?
I had my cowboy boots on. Yeah. From the movie. And so when I was sleeping in my boots. Yeah. And then I took them off and put my sneakers on before I left, and my toes were like purple. I was just frozen.
Wow.
But yeah. So
Robert Englund tells the story of doing one of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. He fell asleep in his chair in his room, and he fell asleep in the makeup of Freddy Krueger. And as he wakes up from his nap, he fell asleep in his chair. He turns over to his right, and there's a mirror, and he's looking at himself and that stuff, and said made him jump out of his chair and scared him to death. Then laughed because he realized he was looking at himself. I always thought that was funny in a way too.
Yeah.
So do you do anything that you like doing outside of the acting or teaching or anything like that? That you have like any fun hobbies you like to do? Or
Well, I do. I'm getting into wellness. I was always into. I got way into fitness when I was competing. I never wanted to lose because somebody was in better shape than I was. If they were more talented or whatever, okay, but not because they were willing to work harder than me. And so I really always had a challenge for myself with that. And so when I finally opened up my studio back in 1994, I started doing fitness classes as well. And it worked out really good because we taught a lot of kids martial arts, and then you have their parents who are very natural, very easy. You don't have to spend a lot of money to advertise with them. You can send home a flyer with the kid, And so I started doing these 10-week boot camps to help people get in shape, and got really into fitness. And so now I do that for a living. I do Zoom fitness classes. I train people in person. I'm also a personal trainer. And I've started working with police departments in the Los Angeles area on fitness, which started I started working with a police psychologist who, ironic that that school that I started training and sparring on Wednesday nights, a lot of police officers would come because Steve Fisher used to train a lot of people from Hawthorne Police Department. And so from way back then, I was training with police officers, but I know a lot of martial arts guys have trained police officers in self-defense. Well, these were wellness boot camps for, I was working with a police psychologist, and she has contracts with a lot of Southern California police departments, and she works with police officers that have PTSD. And part of it is, like exercising is really good for stress, as we know. And so I've got a lot of older clients now, and I'm doing that police officer trainings very regularly now, and plus the wellness boot camps that she puts on, where I do the fitness part. But I don't do any martial arts in there. It's all just workout stuff. And I really enjoy it, and so I'm really into this wellness thing for myself, and also helping other people with it. But I do still love doing movies. I just did a movie in Germany recently called Lion Fist, which I don't know when it's going to be out, but I think they're going to be done with post-production fairly soon. And I got a really interesting role in that one too. And I have more fighting in it than in Black Creek. In Black Creek, I just had that one fight with Don Wilson, which is pretty quick fight. But
yes,
this one I have a little more action in. So look out for Lion Fist.
I'll keep an eye out for that then for sure.
Yeah.
Do you know if it's going to be on streaming services or anything like that, or is it something?
I don't know where it's going to be out yet, and and with Cynthia's movie with Black Creek, I didn't know what it was going to be out on originally, and now it's out on everything pretty much, I think. But
yeah, I ended up buying it on the Fandango at home. It was formerly Voodoo. It's where I get a lot of my stuff at, and I got it there. So it is a little bit everywhere. I think it's on Apple TV, and I think Amazon. You can get it there, and a number of places. So maybe this will be the same.
Well, I really enjoyed that, and I lucked out on that one, on getting that part, and for Cynthia give me that part, because it's such an interesting role, and the one that I have in this upcoming Lion Fist is really interesting part too. So.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask you if you had anything upcoming to put out there, and that's good for that. Anything else coming up for you soon, or that anything you're working on?
No, that's it. That's it right now. Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing more stuff though. I haven't been like that active lately. I was so into running the martial arts school, and it just kind of takes over your life, like you have all these kids that you're teaching. And now I still teach at a preschool though. And I've been teaching there for over 15 years. So I still teach. It's really a self-empowerment class for little kids, teach them how to deal with bullies, how to speak up for themselves and stuff like that.
Right.
And I've been doing that twice a week for like I said, over 15 years. So I'm keeping that going, which I really enjoy too. So.
And that's good to teach kids something in that nature, because a lot of kids, the biggest problem is the fear of just stepping up and saying something, because they're afraid of something bad happening. And I think with most people's experiences that when it comes to bullies is that the second you stand up to them is when they really start laying off of you, because they see you're not going to be intimidated anymore, and they lose interest in it.
Yeah.
And you hope it doesn't get into an actual fight or anything. But I mean, occasionally it gets that far.
Yeah.
And still, if you stand up to that bully, you might lose. But if you stand up to him and you say, hey, we may get into it a little bit, and we may get into it again next week and the week after that, but you're going to take some lumps too. Usually they go ahead and back off.
What I do when I'm trying to get kids to speak up, and it's really get them to trust me, that they can learn to assert themselves. As I always go, we're going to practice speaking up for ourselves now. Do you know how it feels when somebody tells you something like, you can't play here, and you do this? You know, I don't want you to feel that way. I don't want you to have to feel that way, and show them what it's like when you speak up for yourself. And most of these kids make tremendous like steps forward within, usually they're in it for 1 or 2 quarters. And so like 6, like I have some of them that come back the following year too, because they're enrichment programs that the parents can choose to take or not. And it's really popular because everybody wants their kid to be able to speak up for themselves. Nobody wants their kid to get bullied. And
Right.
so we practice it. We practice, and it's so worth it. I wish I had that when I was a kid, just somebody who practiced with me speaking up for myself, so I could recognize when it was time for that. And it just kicks in for you because, you've practiced it. And so I act like I'm the bully, with these kids, and they have to learn to, discourage me with their voice and their body language. And so it's really rewarding, kind of work.
Yeah, I wish I'd been able to do it to take it myself when I was younger. My mom
Hey,
never
it's
would
never
let
too
me.
late.
Dude, I am 52 years old, and I feel like I'm 82 years old some days. I'm telling you. I would love to if I felt like I could do it without being down on my back the next day. But yeah, that I've always wanted to do stuff like that. Now we did let my daughter take some stuff when she was younger because it helped her in that confidence area. I think feel better about herself and do things and stand up for herself as well. And I wish I could remember what it was called. She took basically it taught them how to take falls correctly and how to defend themselves.
Wasn't Aikido, was it? Was it
It's not Aikido, no. I wish I could. It's something that they have a little jujitsu in it, a little taekwondo in it, and a little bit of
Okay.
something else. It's a mix of
Hapkido?
things.
Hapkido? Or
No, it's the
Horangdo?
Hapkido, and I remember, huh?
Horangdo?
Oh, that almost struck a nerve. I don't know if that was it or not.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
She only made it to blue belt and she quit because she was not an aerial kind of person, and they were doing more taekwondo stuff at that point.
Okay.
She wanted to follow up more in jujitsu, and she never got to go back to it again at that point. But she did learn quite a bit while she was in there, and actually found herself in a situation one time at one of her jobs, and she was able to defend, to take care of something that happened with her boss and somebody else trying to attack her boss. So she was really pleased
Sure.
with that. She was. I had to pat her on the back so she wouldn't break her arm patting herself on the back too quick. And so it was very cool though for her. But anyway, um, one last question for you. I'm
Okay.
just curious, and then I'll go ahead and wrap things up with you. Do you have anybody that you like to watch these days, that as far as martial artists go, that catches your eye? Do you think is really good and gonna be something?
Um,
Or
well,
maybe somebody already established too, I guess, as far as that goes.
you mean in the movies
In the movies, yeah.
in particular? Well, I would say I'm a pretty big Jason Statham fan.
Mhm.
I think there's something about him. I think he's got a lot of charisma, but there's something believable about him um, that I really like. And so, yeah, I would have to say it's him. Yeah. So, yeah.
Jason Statham has been fun to watch for me
And
as
Donnie
well.
Yen. I'm a big Donnie Yen fan. I love his work. I think he's been in so many great martial arts movies.
Right.
And has brought so much to them, like the Ip Man movies. Have you seen those?
I have, yes.
Yeah,
Very
and
good.
Scott Adkins too. I mean, Scott
Scott
Adkins,
Atkins is something else.
yeah,
Yeah, he really is.
and very talented martial artist. good actor, you know. Yeah, I have to say, yeah, Donnie Yen and Scott Atkins from the more martial arts world. But Jason Statham, I think he's like a star, you know. So
Yeah, I really like, you know, I was going to bring up Scott Atkins to you if it wasn't one of the names you brought up. But
yeah,
as far as women go, though, I thought that I just seen recently when I bought Black Creek, I also bought Lady Scorpions,
okay,
and Caitlin Deschelle
okay.
was
I
in that with
actually
Cynthia
did a movie
Rothrock.
with her
Yeah,
called uh, some Champions of the Deep. Not a very good movie.
not a very good movie.
But she's a very talented martial artist, and I unfortunately haven't seen that movie that you're talking about. But Cynthia's in it, right?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
they play a mother daughter tandem.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, if you do get a chance
She's
to
a
watch
really
it,
nice girl and very talented. Yeah.
yeah, I was pretty impressed with her in that movie as well too. So, and that's the only thing I've seen her in so far. So I can't speak on anything else about her, but
Yeah.
that was pretty impressive there. So, all right, well, if you want to put anything out there for the fans, like your social media or anything, where they could find you out there, where they can keep up with you and everything. I know, like you said, you do some online stuff with training and everything with people. Maybe they can get involved in that, or
Yeah, I have a fitness device. It's a band, like a resistance band device called the Ring, and it's called the Ring Workout. You can find me there. And you know, like I don't do that much social media. You know, I guess I'm a little older or something. I'm really caught up with that yet. But you know, I go around, I travel around and do seminars and stuff like that. And I'm going to the Czech Republic. Actually, Cynthia's going too in a couple weeks here.
Germany?
No, the Czech Republic.
Oh, Czech Republic. Okay,
Yeah,
I
and
thought
Keith
it was the
is going. Do you know Keith?
yes.
Yeah, and so he was in Black Creek and
Hmm.
super nice guy, super great martial artist, and I'm looking forward to seeing them in the Czech Republic in a couple of weeks.
And I'm going to be looking for you guys at some of these local comic cons if you're doing comic cons these days. Maybe I'll find you here
I've
close to
actually
where I am
been
one
to
day.
Tennessee a couple of times doing Comic Cons. Yeah, yeah, I'm getting around doing those. Yeah,
I just started going to them in the last 2 years. I'd never went to one before, and I went to my first one, and again I was hooked on it. I was like, I love doing the podcasting and meeting people like you on here and talking with you and everything. I really love it. Getting to meet somebody in person is really just that much better. I've been fortunate enough to meet two of the people that I've had on here at Comic Cons. It was really great, and I just look forward to seeing as
well, you're
many
good at
people.
it. You're good at it, and you're a nice guy.
Oh, I really appreciate that. I do
So,
seriously. I just love doing it. It's more of a hobby than anything, and I have a really fun time. I think it's one of the coolest things ever to be able to just have conversations with someone like you that I grew up watching in a movie or something, or enjoying watching in a movie
I agree
recently.
with you.
Still,
I mean, I feel that same way. You know, like I just thought of something, so I'm just going to share it. I'm going to in October. It's called the Urban Action Showcase in New York City,
Mhm.
and it's my second time going there. And the first time I was there with Carrie
Mhm.
Hiroyuki Tagawa, who you
Shang
know
Tsung.
grandson in the first. We didn't work at the same time, and I met him because he came by my martial arts studio and he saw the Mortal Kombat poster in the window, and he came in through the door. He goes, "Where'd you get that poster? You're not supposed to have that poster." And I go, "Hey, nice to meet you. I worked on the movie. I played Reptile." He goes, "Oh," and we sort of became friends, and I hadn't seen him in years though, and then I got to hang out with him. I brought my family to New York with me on that thing, and he is so much fun. That guy is so much fun to hang out with.
Hmm.
Everybody in my family loved him, and he's such a talented actor.
Well,
Uh,
everything I've seen him in, I've loved.
Yeah.
He's been, great in most. And I mean, he's got a lot of typecasting done with him,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you see the one where I forget what it was called? It was about the atom bomb. Did you see that one?
um,
It's like one of the few times I've seen him play like he was like the hero of the movie, and it's a Second World War.
I don't think I have seen it. No, it didn't sound familiar.
The name of the movie is the name of that nuclear bomb. You know how they put a name on the bomb,
Yeah.
uh, little something, I think. But
Uh,
he is so good in that movie, and it's such a different side of him. And when you hang out with him, he's so funny and fun, you know. And so it's really, yeah. I think it's really interesting to get a chance to talk to people that you never see what, another side of them other than what you see in the movies or whatever. So
right, and we try to do that on here a lot. If my co-host was on here with us, he's really good at that. He is really good at bringing out conversations of just everyday things that you wouldn't think to ask. Like,
yeah,
we've had like Diane Franklin on before and talked with her, and she's done things like Better Off Dead and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and just quite a few things throughout the 80s and 90s and stuff. And we had more conversation with her about her time as a teacher than we did with her stuff in the movies, and it was so fun and so interesting
that's
to learn this
interesting.
stuff
Yeah,
about her. These are the things that you don't see, the side of the person that you don't know and don't see. And I think people like hearing stuff like that. Not just the fact that we talked about Mortal Kombat or something, but you teaching the kids what you've taught them and everything, and working with them and doing your school that you've had and everything, and doing your competitions early on. People
yeah,
like knowing that kind of stuff.
yeah,
Makes for a fun conversation.
yeah.
So, all right, well, I'd like to thank you for coming on, Keith. It means a
For
great
having
deal
me.
to me that you took
I
some
really
time and
enjoyed
came
it.
on and talked with us and everything. It was really great.
My pleasure.
So, if you ever have anything you want us to put out there for you, promote or something, you got my email, you got my phone number, just drop a message or something. We'll be happy to put it out there for you.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to come back.
Oh, well, absolutely. I'll try to get you back on here one weekend. Are you available on weekends anytime? I
I
don't want
can,
you.
yeah, I can be flexible, definitely.
Yeah, I'll check back with you in the future when I get my co-host back on here. He would love to talk with you as well and everything, and we'll try to find some other stuff to bring up and talk about.
Okay,
That would be awesome.
that'd be great.
All right, man. Well,
Thanks
Keith,
so much
thanks for
for
coming
having
on
me.
again. Not a problem. Thank you for coming on. So, everybody, Keith Cooke, Mortal Kombat fame, China O'Brien fame,
Thanks for
multi-time
watching.
champion. So, we will catch you next time you're with us. Then,
All right.
all right, man. Appreciate it.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. All right, everybody. That is Keith Cooke, and like I said, Mortal Kombat fame and uh, martial arts legend, along with Cynthia Brothart, like we had before. So, if you guys enjoyed the show, let us know. If you want to see more like that, let us know as well. And we'll try to get more people on just like that. It was a blast for me to talk with him. I wish Travis could have been with us. That would have been great. I know he would have enjoyed it. But like he said, we'll try to get him on again here one day soon, and we'll follow up on the conversation again some more. So if you liked the episode, make sure that you like us and you subscribe and you're sharing us with your friends and everything. Uh, Podcast is available anywhere you get your audio podcasts available, and this will be on YouTube where you can catch us on YouTube. Retro Life for You at gmail.com is where you can reach us in email. And if you want to check out our webpage, it's retrolife, the number 4, the letter U.com. You can listen to us in the web browser. And once the video is uploaded, you can also see the video within the show notes. So until next time, everybody, it's been a blast having this episode today. And thank you all for listening and watching. And we'll see you next time. Stay retro.